to enjoy another honour. Will she do it?
Based on form, you have to go with
Outside.
Greaves, but you can never count out Suzuki, who today has at times been tested
Outside.
and come through with flying colours, especially against De Graaf, where she needed to take the two-darter out after a scare on a 1-4-3 checkout.
25.
And we're talking about two of the most prolific dart players on the
Outside.
planet
She could have won the ball.
when they're playing close to home, but this is neutral
Game on.
territory.
So Suzuki has won the first small battle. The right to throw first in, well, potentially 5 legs
100.
if he goes the distance.
I think this final is going to be won and lost on the scoring element. I think if Greaves goes bananas, then Suzuki doesn't win. Simple as that.
120.
Almost did exactly that, but for a bounce out with her opening visit.
You ever thought about getting your hair like that,
140.
Murph? Bit of a plait in a loop on either side?
Look, as a man of a certain age, I'm glad that I still could if I wanted to.
Way to turn that around.
95.
Beau's against Beau. Mikuru Suzuki. We said at the start of the day, didn't we, Paul? I think we agreed that probably of all the players in the women's series, she's been the one that's
45.
probably underperformed the most. We would have expected her to have had a rather meatier share of titles than just one.
I think that's very fair to say, but at the same time, she's got to travel the most distance, which has to be brought
100.
into the equation. No women's series event has gone more than a couple of days. So to travel halfway across the world for a couple of days of action, sometimes with jet lag, is very hard to handle.
41.
Whereas if you go to Barnsley, for instance, and you're Beau Greaves, it takes less than an hour. It takes more than an hour for Suzuki to get to the airport.
45.
Rather ironic that Beau didn't play in the batch in Barnsley but has made it to Hildesheim, isn't it?
Just adds to the mystique. But Mikuru is one of 6 players that have won a women's series event.
45.
Could have 7 before Lisa Ashton even throws a competitive dart today.
I mentioned that semi-final in 2020.
109.
That's an excellent setup, by the way, for Beau Greaves. They did meet earlier this month, in fact, the pair of them in the WDF's Austrian Darts Open, and Greaves won that final by 8 legs to 5. You can see she's feeling the heat a little bit.
It's a bit sticky down there.
75.
This is a very large arena, but the heat in Hildesheim is pretty hot. It's a great guide, but I think she's going to try and go over the top. I think the other side was the better play. This side.
No score.
Sandwiches between the two to give Mikuru a survival chance here in leg 1.
Well, she's only going to get 1 dart at double now. A disastrous start for Mikuru Suzuki as Beau's head continues to shake after those misses at double. Clear bed for Mikuru though.
15.
She fails to find it.
That's the thing about those shots, you must get 2. But it's 2 visits for Greaves. This time going to the left is the right play.
Game shot.
And does go through the posts in a good way this time to break the throw in 7 visits ultimately. Not the best start of this final, but I've always said, Murph, misses make drama.
Well, there were 5 darts there that were on the wire, really, weren't there, before the 6th one went in, so it's going to harm her average, having scored 0 for 5 darts.
59.
But I've said it many times, it's one of the intricacies of this game that a well-thrown dart can actually end up being a hindrance when it comes to the doubles, and indeed trebles at times as well. Problem is, if you miss
95.
outside a double and block it, then you've got no other option but to stay there.
This is true. You've got to find those double segments from angles, and it's something that you do have to practice.
140.
Suzuki's route to the final took out Katie Sheldon by 5 legs to 2 in the semis. That great game that you saw on this streaming platform against De Graaf. 4 legs to 3,
140.
ultimately to Suzuki. Aletta Vaya in the last 16 of the Netherlands, won by 4 legs to 2. And Dora Stein again of the Netherlands by 4 legs to 0 in the last 32. In her first game of the day, Laura Furking of Germany with her second best average of the day. So she did start very buoyantly in that mid-80s range. Lost it a little bit
100.
in 2 of her last 3 games, but she's going to need to be quite high if she wants to win this title.
$140.
Well, it's no treble, 2 treble. The pattern of visits in this leg for Beau Greaves.
131.
So a big number for Suzuki and a chance for Beau to double a lead.
Might stay there. Isn't. And that was the wrong play on 2 different
42.
counts. One, the guide for the 60 was good, and going bull instead of 42 is the wrong play. Double 16. And Suzuki is level. She had to wait for the call from the referee because that one was nowhere near the middle, but did register.
Yeah, I like the idea of staying there. I've advocated that, and I've had the stats backed up by the boffins at Darts Oracle. And so actually treble 20 is
95.
the best thing to do with a 2 dart combination, your opponent on a finish. If you've got 2 darts in hand, that is.
We've already seen a couple of missed singles from Suzuki in this match
95.
as well, and that could be a symptom of 2 things. One, spending too much time practicing trebles, because if you spend too much time in this area, you neglect going for different areas of the board. And the other one is
41.
just thinking that you're going to hit it without focusing. And I would never accuse Mikuru of not focusing, but maybe she's just losing the
100.
height of the throw around that, say, a 13 or 14 mark on the board, which is at the same height.
By the way, while we're in the early stages of this final, just want to make you aware that the draw has been done for the
60.
second event of the day. You can read that for yourself on the Dart Connect website, tv.dartconnect.com. But notable that this pair are in opposite half of the draw again, so could make it a
56.
brace of final meetings. But the one draw that really leaps off the page is at first round, an effective prelim match featuring Eileen de Graaf and Dieter Hedman.
60.
At which point could it possibly be where one of those ladies says over the next 10 minutes, shouldn't these events be seeded? Well, on that evidence, you'd probably say maybe.
100.
The interesting thing for Dieter is she's only played 1 event this year, so probably wouldn't be a seed.
Exactly. That was my next point.
Would have been maybe more likely to get that draw, even though she's got it.
It's not as if Dieter has got a massive run in the
85.
bank today already, so you'd have to have de Graaf as the favourite in that one, and Beau Greaves the favourite here in leg 3.
$98.
That's decent. It might take a shot like this to change a match. That doesn't worry the 60, so the shot is off and Greaves has the decision to make. This is the number, Murph, where you find out if they
70.
like 16s or tops.
Or just 16.
Game
She
shot.
finds double 4, and Beau Greaves breaks again to lead this match 2-1.
Do you know what I don't get? I've come from the Pro Tour as a player, and I've been in the commentary box for about 6 years now with yourself. And I know 3 ladies who do that on 52.
140.
Fallon Sherrick, Dieter Hedman and Beau Greaves now. And going for treble 12 there makes no sense to me. It's just fraught with peril. Guarantee yourself 2 darts at a double instead of the risk of hitting the treble 9 or even the single 9
81.
and robbing yourself of a shot. It doesn't make any sense.
However, she pulled it off and wrestled back the advantage. Just want to go back to a quick point as well for the next tournament. It will be a relief to Beau and Mikuru that they haven't been drawn out in the first match. I remember Laura Turner, when she reached her first final, she was straight back on the board 5 minutes later. Credit to her, she reached the final
81.
again that day. But yeah, a bit of a break for Beau, who's got a bye, and Mikuru will be playing in the second of the matches on her board.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing for both of these players, that they do have that little
100.
break. I've played in tournaments in Australia where it's multiple events in a day, and honestly, if you win that final and go on to the next game, you're flying. But
100.
if you lose, it's a very difficult prospect.
One different quirk too for the women players, particularly Beau Greaves, who's heavily focused on WDF events so far.
177.
She produces a perfect setup shot, a perfect visit. They often play down to the semi-finals, don't they, and then wait for the final either later that night or the following day.
100.
I understand why they do that, but I think as players and as supporters, you want to see a winner as soon as possible.
Game shot.
And the winner of this match could well be Beau Greaves, because the scoring element of this game is starting to be owned by her.
Well, I wanted to ask you specifically from a playing perspective, Paul. Surely you're playing well, you've got through to a final, you just want to get the job done there and then. Because how many times
60.
you hear it's all on the day, and it might be a very different player that turns up for the next day.
Absolutely. If I'm in a semi-final of a tournament and the final is played a day or two later, I wouldn't be happy about that.
140.
I always wanted to play in a tournament where the conclusion was on that day. In an open tournament, of course. I'm not talking about events where you play one match per day. That's totally different, because you peak for that game
125.
every day. But as far as tournament play is concerned, like this, you want to have a winner.
Well, Greaves is inching towards being that
100.
winner, when it in truth has looked like that for the majority of the day. She hasn't been flawless, it hasn't been without danger and drama,
60.
but she has been the best. I think that's fair to say in her 5 matches to get here. She hasn't been taken to a deciding leg in any of them. I think
91.
the most difficult was the defeat of Lorraine Winstanley in the last 16.
Based on what we've seen from her so far today and in this final, this isn't a late 80s average, but there's so much more to give.
Well, in that match against Lorraine, she missed the ball for a 170. Not going to get the chance in this visit.
$45.
Bit of a spectacular shot coming up, potentially. If you miss a 170, you're not pleased. But
43.
every player with this kind of talent fancies a bull 25 bull. There's one. There's the 25. Oh, that was
100.
close. What an effort from Greaves.
Yeah, for a split second I thought it was in. I'm sure she thought it was in when it left her hand. It would have been a brilliant moment from Beau Greaves in this final, but it edges her further towards winning the match. This
59.
remaining 25 to break and move within 1.
No missed single here.
Game
And
shot.
no missed double. Just too good so far. And it is Greaves 4-1 up. Suzuki in all sorts of trouble. Earlier on today we saw her compatriot Yukie Sakaguchi 3-0 down against Dieter Hedman and 1-4-3. 4 straight legs
140.
needed for Suzuki. Ultimately against someone who's playing a little bit better than the great Hedman did a little bit earlier.
140.
We'll have to find something, Mikuru, but even that something might not be enough.
57.
Has to punish a trebleless turn from Beau Greaves.
It's got to be lethal from here, simple as that. And when you put a dart
140.
player of Mikuru's ilk under this kind of scrutiny in a final, they either sink or swim, and more often than not, Suzuki swims.
96.
But this is a lot to ask. Proximity to that 60 bed in this leg has been
60.
excellent. But even now, you would fancy Greaves will have 6 darts from 208 for a first PDC title.
60.
Well, no treble.
She's going to fancy taking this out for the title, you know.
54.
If the first start is high in the 60, it's possible. Right there. And there.
120.
She did fancy it and almost got it.
Suzuki has no choice but to take this out. Treble 17. Beyond her. And Beau can now put the match beyond her. And it could be a glory
47.
for Beau Greaves for the first time in the PDC.
Double 7. Oh, splits it. Suzuki
24.
survives. 3 match darts for Greaves, all missed. And this is what Suzuki took out in her quarter-final on this board. And she
40.
can't take 60 this time. How many does Beau need? Only
Game shot
one.
And the match.
And Beau Greaves leaves women's event number 13 with the title, her very first PDC title. It will be the first of many. At the age of 18, she comes into 2022 in the PDC for the first time, and her hit rate is 100%.